Hi, sweet people. It's Nana Rose, and I promised I would be back yesterday or today. I didn't do it yesterday. I had quite an afternoon to tell you about the lifestyle journey, change journey that I'm on. I will do a playlist that deals mainly with that because I know not everybody is interested in diet and nutrition and, just making changes. Some people are pretty happy just the way they are. So I will do that, but I will just tell you very briefly that it is a low-carb eating plan. It is not keto because it is not high fat like keto is. It does have some fats, but not high fats like keto. And they have prepared meals or bars or shakes that you can order that are nutritionally set up so that you use those. Because of my infirmed age, I'm on what's called a 4-2-1 plan, which means I have 4 fuelings or 4 of the dietary fuelings a day, 2 lean and green meals, and then 1 snack, which also has to be healthy. But it does not require exercise getting started, which is nice since I don't do that. But I just think that it's something that I've seen has really made a huge difference for me and for my sister. But as I said, I'll do a whole video on that later. I wanted to thank everybody for their sweet comments and support and encouragement. It's been wonderful. And bless her heart, I think it was Liz that said, "I love you just the way you are, Nana Rose." Well, I appreciate that, honey. Now I'm trying to learn to love me just the way I am, whatever I'm like at the time. But it's something that I do struggle with. But I also know I do not want to. First of all, my daughter's getting married in August, and I would prefer not to be so overweight in the pictures that are taken of her wedding. But secondly, as you get older, especially where I live by myself, you just start thinking about weird things like, what happens if I die during the night and how long will I lay here? Now, granted, my sister and I talk every day, several times a day, so one of us would know if the other one croaked. But we have joked about the fact that we both sleep naked, and we have worried that if our children came to check on us, the sight they would see, and that it might just blind them forever. So we've told all of them to, if you ever have to come in and check on me, hold a towel in front of your face till you get by me, and throw it over my body, and then you can check, because I just don't want that to be the last thing they remember of their mom. And Sharon says the same thing. But I have to tell you a quick story about, I was legal secretary for several years before I started having children. And after I raised my family, they all got into school. I went back to work for a marketing department for a high-end retirement community. It was built by some Canadian developers and really set up in looks and set up like a 5-star hotel. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So I worked with the marketing department, and as the place was being built, I got to know most of the residents. And once the place opened, they asked me to come along as the executive assistant to the executive director there. And he was there for, I think we went through 2 executive directors actually for the first couple of years. And then he left, and the board came to me and asked if I would accept the position, which I didn't feel qualified to do, but they convinced me. They had lots of faith in me. So I was there for 13 years. And let me tell you, there were some stories there. And I've always thought I'd love to write a book about some of them, but I don't find the time to do stuff like I should. But we were set up, each unit was its own condominium, and you held that condominium in life estate, which meant that they owned it as long as they were alive, but then once upon their death, the property would revert back to the developer, and then he could resell it. So in addition to a pretty hefty payment, they had to pay monthly dues. That included meals in the dining room and, their utilities and all different kinds of things. So it was, other than the fact we went in, I think we had 2 lawsuits against the developer while I was there, and because he kept raising their rates, and the residents wanted to get rid of him. So that was stressful, but I loved the job and I loved the people. I've just always loved being around old people, and now I are one. But it was supposed to be set up as independent living. Now the bathrooms had pull cords like in a nursing home, and there were 2 floors of nursing beds that were set up as a separate business. This was an 18-story high-rise, and it was in downtown Washington. And so we had to make sure people were able to live independently there, because we didn't have a bunch of nurses on staff, and it was just not set up to be like assisted living. So we did have pull cords in the bathrooms, just in case, and it would ring down to the nursing station. If a nurse was available and free, they would go up and check on the person. 9 times out of 10, the nurses were not available and free. So they would call down and ask to have some of our staff go up and check on Mr. or Mrs. So-and-so, whoever. So I often was there late at night, sometimes slept overnight, because it was a taxing job. But like I said, I loved it. But we kind of kept track of residents and whether they would come to the dining room or not, because they were allowed 1 meal, 1 dinner a day. The rest of the times they cooked in their kitchens or came down and they bought their lunch or whatever. But if we didn't see them for a little bit, we would go up and we'd call or go up and check on them just to make sure they were okay. Or if their family called and said, I can't get a hold of Mom or Dad, one of our staff would go up. Well, one night I was there after the dinner crowd had left, and I was in my office working, and the nurses station called down and said, we've had a pull cord go off in Dr. H's apartment, and we don't have anybody that can go up and check on her. Could you send someone up? Well, because it often was a fall that someone had taken and often needed help getting up, we would usually send one of the young men from our dining room management staff. I loved them all like they were my kids. A lot of them were the same age of my children, and I loved them all. But the dining room manager at the time, his name was Marshall, and a lot of the staff had left, and so I called back to the kitchen, and it was just the kitchen, the front desk, and myself that were there that late. And so I called back and asked Marshall if he could go up, please, and check on Dr. H. She had been a dentist before she retired. Now, Dr. Hiller was a short lady. She's long gone, of course. She was a short lady. She had boobs out to here. I mean, I was surprised she could walk without falling over. And it was her place that Marshall needed to go up and check. So he took the master key, went up. We called, of course, first and got no answer. So he went up, and when he came back down, he said, "Rosemary, I am never doing that again." He said, "That was horrible." And I said, "Well, what was wrong?" And he said that she had slipped in the bathtub and was laying there on the floor, naked, of course. And he said, there was just boob everywhere. He said, "I didn't know how to grab her to pick her up." He said, it blinded me for life. He said, it's horrible. Please don't ever ask me to do that again. So that is my big fear, that I don't want to go and have an EMT have to break into my house at night if I call 911 or whatever, or my children come in and find me and I'm laying here dead or sick in a pile of fat that I just can't get up. I'd rather die looking a little trimmer. They go, "Oh, wasn't she a sweet old lady? Just so tiny. She was so tiny." I don't know. Maybe I'll get there again. Anyway, I'll go for now, and I will do a video dealing with the diet specifically and what I eat. And I'll do it on a separate playlist. So those who don't necessarily want to hear that just don't have to listen to it. So I hope you have a wonderful, it's afternoon here in North Carolina. It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Time for Griff's show to start, so I need to go. But just want to send you love and hugs, and thank you again for all your support. I really appreciate it. Love and hugs till next time. Bye-bye.